Oh, the snap gets nearly through the hands of Faya. Here's Joe Smith. And Joe Smith into the clear. Maybe the cross midfield. 40, 35, inside the 30. Goes to the far side of the field. Smith still on his feet. Touchdown, Joe Smith.
Welcome in Deseret News Rewind. Dusty Litster, Dane, Stewart, as always, presented by Heidemann & Associates, brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard, and we're outfitted by Black Clover.
Yeah, that's right, Dusty. And hey, as we've talked about all year long, Black Clover, they've got a full line of men's and women's gear, hats, polos, outerwear, whatever you need. Visit blackcloverusa.com and use the promo code DNR20 to get 20% off your order from Black Clover. Or if you want a little something special, just swing by the store off 123rd South in Draper next to the water park. Tell them Deseret News Rewind sent you, and you'll get an even better deal from Black Clover.
Absolutely. And look, they got so many options. It's not very often you're going to show up dressed like the other person. So this is complete happenstance. Nothing about this show is scripted.
We're both wearing green for different reasons. I'm green because I'm feeling a little ill, and Dusty's green because he's just money.
We'll get to that. And it's Masters Weekend. Masters Weekend in November. That was the other reason I was going for that one too. But let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Let's go to the opening statement brought to you by Heidemann & Associates. And this weekend we had semifinal games in 4A, 5A, 6A. However, we got champions to crown from this weekend, and we want to talk about them here. Let's talk about first in 2A. Beaver is 2A, and they remain 2A. And Beaver with an impressive and very, very emphatic win over Duchesne. Duchesne hoping that maybe last year was a little bit of tell they might be able to get a Beaver. Beaver said, hey, we wanted to show last year was a fluke. And they do that in a tune of 49-0, the win over Duchesne.
Yeah, boy, Dusty, last week on Deseret News Rewind, I said I thought that meeting last year, Duchesne and Beaver in the semis, that Duchesne would come in focused and really feel like this was an opportunity for them to right some wrongs. And hey, Beaver, thanks for hitting me up on Twitter this week. You're welcome for the locker room fodder. Hopefully that was helpful. And, if it makes you the hangry team, happy to assist in another state championship. Just so you know, I had, again, a lot of people hit me up. One hit me up 42-0. I wasn't quite certain if that was indicating the final score in the championship or if that was the record of Beaver whenever I pick against them. But regardless what it was, this was Beaver's game from the very get-go, Dusty. And look, we talked about last week the ability to run the football, but the passing dynamic they had this year as well. And Trayson Hunter, what a year he has had. Mentioned last week that he actually had thrown for over 1,000 yards. They didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher this year. Now, they had a lot of guys that could run the football, but it was much more spread across on the offense this year in 2020. And how about Hunter in this championship game? Throws for 5 touchdown passes. That defense was all over, created ruckus. In fact, they limited Duchesne to 57 yards in this one. And the Beavers, Dusty, I mean, my goodness, they go undefeated last year for the first time since 79, and they go undefeated again this year. 26-0 they are now in the last 2 years. And, I have helped them winning back-to-back championships by not picking them. I know a lot of people in Beaver are upset with me. Beaver, I got a little something special for you.
Oh, man, my wife would love to get me that way. My wife would love to get me that. Oh, my heavens. And you have a Beaver wife. Even
there you go.
In there nicely.
Congratulations on a 2020 championship. You can be hangry all you want if that's what's going to drive you. Congratulations to the Beavers. I'll wear this one.
Oh, Dane Stewart, always good for a prop move.
By the way, this is not apples. Someone said, how you like them apples? It's razzleberry. It's pretty good. Not quite like apples, but the razzleberry, it'll do.
At least in one way, you got what you wanted. Let's go through but here's the other important thing I thought was really impressive. Trayson Hunter, those 5 touchdown passes. Dane, not one guy scored 2 touchdowns. E.J. Allred, Creighton Hollingshead, Statler Wright, Hunter Carter, Turner Williams, Kai Brown each had touchdowns in this one. that just showed the versatility of this Beaver offense. And then you talked about 26 straight wins. There's 13 state championship as a school. But how about this? Back-to-back state titles for the fourth time in school history, 70, 71, 80, 81, 15, 16, and now 19 and 20. That is how good Beaver football has been for a long time.
It has been, Dusty. And with this, moves them, I think, into top 5 for state championships all time. And, I mean, Dusty, you say they are 2A. Look, I will make a promise, all right? In fact, I'm going to get on the train early. My 2021 state champion in 2A, it's Beaver. I'm telling you, I'm not doing this again. It's Beaver. I have learned my lesson. I should have just stuck with my bracketology, man. I don't know what I was thinking. But Beaver, I'm coming around. I'm getting there.
Well, for the other reason why, by the way, congratulations to Beaver. Hit Dane up, get his ring size. If you're going to hit him up like that, he deserves something from Jostens. If nothing else, since I'm on your side too, both of us get one. Because I wear blue and white. That is just a rule in my life. But congratulations to Beaver, another state championship. Now let's get, and I said 42-0, the win for the Beaver Beavers over the Duchesne Eagles. Let's turn now to 3A. And this was an absolute, another rematch. That one was a semifinal rematch from a year ago. How about we run back the 3A state championship game? Last year, Dane took Morgan. I took Juab. Morgan came home with the title. This year, Dane took Morgan. I took Juab. Oh, and it feels so good. This was a great game. It absolutely
was.
The difference in this one, and honestly, with so much stuff going on today, go turn on this game just in time to see Bodie Blackett's 83-yard scamper up the sideline. What I loved is at the very end, the defender has the angle on him, goes back inside to score the touchdown, and then the defense from Juab, they only allowed 3 completions all night long. 3 completions. Ryder Lish, who's an outstanding quarterback, he's a good athlete, but only 3 completions. One of those, only 2 of them for positive yards. One was a screen pass for negative yards. This defense from Juab was spectacular. 17-14, and this was a good one.
Dusty, this was awesome. And, I mean, you talk about the defense of Juab, what they did in this ball game. Morgan had 1 passing yard at half. 1. Now, look, this is not Corner Canyon, right? I mean, they're not throwing for 4,000 yards, but 1 passing yard? I mean, everything Morgan did was on the ground in this contest. And the other thing, Dusty, was Juab. I mean, they go right down the field to score on the first possession. I think it was the first possession. Morgan couldn't get a first down. I mean, they were just getting stalled out. It's 10-0 Juab. And Juab's driving again. They fumble the football. In fact, I think Morgan's only 2 touchdowns came on turnovers. Juab, I think, lost the turnover battle on this one. I can't remember if Morgan had an official turnover other than turnover on downs. I don't remember if they had an interception or any fumbles. Had one that I know they recovered. But, I mean, Juab turned the ball over. It gave Morgan a halftime lead in the third quarter. I mean, this was just a chess match back and forth. Neither team could find that rhythm. And you talk about Blackett. Dusty, this run was beautiful because he had great blocking in the line of scrimmage. Looked like maybe had a defender with an angle. He just turns on the jets. And look, Morgan, great chase. I actually thought they were going to get him at about the 10. I don't know how he slipped through that tackle. But you're right. I mean, hitting the brakes at the 5 back in the end zone, and that's your game winner. Morgan had a couple of opportunities trying to get drives going. Some big 4th down stops by that Juab defense. And Dusty, I think that I saw somewhere, and I'm trying to remember, I think I heard that Trey Lund, I think, ran for like 120 yards in this contest. He was a beast, and Morgan did a great job to really try to clog up the middle, but that allowed Juab to get them around the edges multiple times. And in the end, Juab, congratulations, Juab. First ever state championship in football. Hey, that first one's a special one, and this is a good group for Juab. I mean, watching this game, you see how big they are, how physical they were. It was a great matchup to watch all night long, but in the end, the Wasps, Dusty, again, your money. I'm feeling a little ill with the picks. Congratulations, Juab, on a, hey, not all 2020 is a bad thing, huh? State championship, first one for the Wasps.
Well, congratulations, Coach Bowering. If I heard on the broadcast correct, his first state championships is 0-1 in Monticello. So congratulations to Coach Bowering and Juab. And not only that, congratulations to Morgan. Reigning state champions this year did not start the way they wanted to go, a little choppy to get going. And then they became a team where I'm picking Juab mainly because I was like, I got to be a little different than Dane. But I watched enough Juab. I thought they could get it done. And a team that wasn't as explosive as last year with Cade Bowering was able to get it done. So congratulations to Juab. That drive to Manti from St. George, I'm sure it's going to be good. A good trip up I-15. We'll get to our Utah Army National Guard. We call them the quick hits, but really want to go through what happened in all the semifinals and what happened this weekend. Dane and I were at Cedar Valley High School for the 5A and 6A. Let's start first in 6A. Actually, let's go 5A first. 5A was interesting, mainly because it was Region 7 versus Region 8. And we talked about that, what this would look like. And let's go with the nightcap for the first one. How about Orem and Maple Mountain? Most interesting about this is that Maple Mountain, first of all, Tanner Nelson, Nelson not being available in this game is just heartbreaking for Maple Mountain, a team that were on early on before the season started. Dane's like, hey, look, this is a team, and we were on it. To see him not play was sad. Tyler Nelson not be able to go. You have McQuivy, Bryson McQuivy out with cancer, right? He's had cancer. He's not be able to play this year, and our thoughts are still with him, as that's just been a heart-wrenching situation. Then Nelson goes down in this game, so essentially you're down to your third, maybe even fourth-string quarterbacks, and that's where they went to. Could not move the ball, could not just get anything going on offense. Everything was just not there. But Orem's like, hey, we're not going to play down to our competition, and the Tigers just absolutely came out in dominant fashion.
Yeah, they did. And weather was a factor all day on Friday as well at Cedar Valley, at the airfield at Cedar Valley High School. And Dusty, really the only quarterback who was able to throw consistently into the wind was Micah Fea. I mean, Orem came out and he's in the air, and that ball's, cutting through the gust. And, Orem was able to mix things up really nicely in this contest. And you talk about Maple Mountain, having to test the depth a little bit. And when your best players, they had weight in the backfield, but the first drive for Maple Mountain, they go 3 and out. They don't even try to run the football. And then they're trailing 7-0 just like that. And the challenge here was, how do you try to get any rhythm going? Because just 5 minutes into this contest, I think it was actually 7 or 8 minutes into the contest, they're down 14-0. And so now you feel that desperation. We got to get the passing attack going. We got to try to pick this up and find a way to get the offense moving. They could never establish weight on the ground. That Orem front was an absolute terror. You look at the night that Singh had. I didn't count his sacks, Dusty. I'm just looking right now, and I actually 4 sacks, 5 total tackles. He was an absolute monster on that defensive line. And then you had obviously Ayu and Skips. A number of guys on that defense that just stood up and really forced Maple Mountain into a one-dimensional game. And with the weather the way it was, and you mentioned playing third and fourth string quarterbacks, it's just going to be a challenge to be able to get that timing right. Really only having a week to prepare for it, and it didn't matter who the quarterback was for Maple Mountain. It was going to be a chore moving the football all night. And when you look at this game, Dusty, they finished with only 70 yards of offense. And, that just indicates what the challenge it was. Had a negative 20 yards net rushing in the contested Maple Mountain. It was just an absolute domination by the Orem Tigers. And we talked about this Orem team, having 4 weeks off, and then coming into, I think, week 9 or 10 was when they got kind of a final regular season game in before the playoffs, but allows them to get healthy. And, man, they look healthy. You look at the night that they had on the ground. Joe Smith was a beast. They were able to get the passing game going with Saad Chisholm. They had a lot of options, and this Orem team playing about as good as you could hope or expect if you're an Orem Tiger fan right now.
Well, Saad Chisholm, I'm telling you, that kid's been an absolute find down the stretch.
Yeah.
Another thing to play for a month, just getting to see him all of a sudden come on, kind of gets you a feel for what Coach Lance Reynolds Jr. was able to figure out on the offense during that whole break and what they were trying to figure out, and now a better understanding of why they wanted to play, so they could actually see who they had go through the state tournament run, and maybe they didn't need it. My heavens, his offense has been rolling. Joe Smith, we were talking pregame, like, this kid's going to have a good game. There was just no doubt. I've seen enough Orem highlights, even with 5 weeks, to know that Joe Smith is the straw that stirs the drink in that Orem offense. I know it's Micah Fea. Fea's the quarterback. We always love the quarterback. But Joe Smith, the kid is an absolute stud. You talk about he's my X factor going to that game, and he was absolutely spectacular. And you look at that defense side, all they did. Orem was completely dominant, just running away from Maple Mountain. And then we'll take a look at the other 5A game, Tempview and Salem Hills. I struggled because I thought maybe Salem Hills would be able to do something. I had picked Tinview to lose to Brighton. That's the egg on my face. My wife's not here to throw a pie in my face. Maybe I should get more hate from people, and I feel like I got to do that. But then coming to this one, I really, really felt like Salem Hills second year going into the semifinals, back-to-back seasons, and felt like with Jared Elmer, they had so much potential on offense. I didn't see Reed Johnson going down pregame. That's a big miss. And
that hurt.
Guys started pressing all over the place. But, man, this Tipview front was all over the place. Logan Fano was a monster all day long. The back in that defense. Well, first of all, let's see. The biggest surprise of the night was Raider. No, that's not a surprise. Raider DeMooney. Raider shows up big once again for Tempview, and it was from Jump Street, and Tempview just blitzed Salem Hills, knocked him in the mouth, and then repeatedly knocked him in the mouth.
Yeah. And Dusty, this was one of those where you just kind of felt early on like, oh boy, I thought this was going to be a really good matchup. I was really looking forward to this contest, but you look at the way this game started, and the weather was even worse for this one, the wind at least, than for the nightcap. I mean, we had to have 40-mile-hour winds, maybe stronger than that. We had signage that was being moved that was just 2 feet off the ground. It was unreal, the elements that these two teams had to play in. And, that bodes well for Tinview. It doesn't bode very well for Salem Hills. And you look at Jared Elmer. I mean, this is a young man that's had a really good year this year. Obviously, good couple of years, right? Leading Salem Hills to their best 2-year span in school history. And we were talking with Coach Higginson before the game about whether that was a concern. He's like, he's got a really strong arm, and we feel like that's going to be able to work through the conditions. But this is he went 10 of 24 in this ball game. And some of that, the ball, he had throws that were on target, and some that were just dropped and some that were missed, but it was just hard for that Salem Hills offense to find much rhythm. Leota was a great find in the first half, trying to get things going for Salem Hills. It was a 17-0 deficit at the half, but you talk about this Tempview team, Dusty. Raider DeMooney, obviously the strip and then the scoop and score was huge. He had some other big plays as well for this Tempview defense. He was all over the place. And, we talk about the tough night it was for Maple Mountain offensively. Salem Hills only generated 105 yards of offense in this semifinal. So for the Region 8 teams, having to play two of the more physical teams in the classification, the co-region champs in Region 7, it was just a tough night for them to find much success against those Region 7 defenses. And you talked about Fano up front. Feely was a beast as well. We saw other guys up front for Tempview just roaming around, bottling things up. There just was not a lot of space. And on a game where Salem Hills loses their best receiver and, they have some uncustomary drops, it just became really one-sided and tough for the Skyhawks to be able to find success.
Yeah, and Targi Lamson and crew were just way too much to handle. The front from Tempview just blew Salem Hills off the line all day long. And a cruising win for Tempview, getting back to the state championship game for a rematch of last year's 5A state championship game, Tempview and Orem, in a game that both these teams won. Both these teams wanted this game, and one a few years ago wanted it more than the other. Now they both want this one. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. When again, the 5A championship game, we're filming this on Saturday, pardon me. We won't know until Monday what side it's going to be and where. What we know is we will be there no matter where it is, and we'll have that game for you. Let's talk 6A, shall we? And let's start with the first one. Corner Canyon all over. Well, if you look at the score, it seems
not so fast, my friend.
Okay, 45-30, but it wasn't never that close. It really wasn't. Corner Canyon came out fast. East had some hiccups early on, and what you cannot do is give Corner Canyon, Eric Kerr, and how about Jackson Dart, who broke a record that I didn't know would ever be broken. Riley Nelson's single-season touchdown passing record was one that I thought would stand. 15 years is pretty doggone good, right? And that's a good little healthy lifespan. But Jackson Dart to go get it, playing in 6A, his first year in the offense at Corner Canyon. And not only does he break it, he breaks it in the semifinals, which means that record could get to 70, depending on what this week looks like, because 63 touchdown passes on the season for Jackson Dart. Now, the total touchdowns, I don't think he's got a shot at that one. He'd have to go bonkers. So that one's safe for Riley. But congratulations to Jackson Dart as Corner Canyon all over East. East did make a run in the second half, but it just was not enough.
Yeah, and, Dusty, you talk about this game, and it had a really weird feel. You look at it at the end, and you see 45-30, and you're like, oh, East kind of hung around. How about this? East had more total yards than Corner Canyon had in this one, 407 to 344. the difference is, and it's kind of, the path you were going down, this was 31-0 at one point for Corner Canyon. And so, they had this game. It felt locked up. And, give East some credit here. Look, they were playing without one of their better running backs. And so they had to find other ways. Sula had a number of carries. Zimmerman, he actually ran the offense really well in this contest by Nuku. He didn't have quite as big of a game as he did against American Fork the week previous, but he was a good find. I mean, East ran for 213 yards. And how about this? They threw for 194. Who saw that coming? But they were able to dial up some long ones behind Isaac Zimmerman. But, I mean, you go down 31-0 to this kind of offense, and it's going to be hard coming back from it. And, that's kind of the way that this game played out. But, give East a lot of credit. Look, this was a game that I didn't quite know if they'd be able to handle. I mean, they had a great win last week over American Fork. I didn't quite see that coming either. But, they showed a lot of resolve and came back. And, to make this a two-possession game in the fourth, Corner Canyon actually brought in their reserves. East goes down and scores, and the starters came back out. So, I mean, that gives you a feel that in Kara's mind, this wasn't quite as wrapped up as maybe you would have thought an hour previous. It was a great battle from East, but in the end, Corner Canyon just flexed their muscle, showed how good they were, and they were the state championship game.
Well, absolutely. And it was just you kind of thought it would go that way as far as Corner Canyon winning. East certainly, if they come out a little cleaner. And then, I know it's frustrating because everyone went through COVID testing. And when you lose your primary running back, I mean, if you were number 2 for Brandon Matich, there's a reason for it. And when you don't have your number 2 out there running the football, and that just, no Omoni, that just hurts. It hurts, or Omoni, pardon me. It just hurts that offense and maybe the stuff at first. But I thought I.J. Sula ran the ball extremely well, but just not the same running back. There's a reason why Amini Omoni wears number 2 for Brandon Matich. But a good win for Corner Canyon moving back to the 6A state championship game. The nightcap that night was the absolute barn burner of the evening. And all of a sudden, Lone Peak, it's like we went back a couple of years. Remember that state championship team? The offense wasn't explosive, but the defense was, the special teams was behind Nate Ritchie on both sides of that. And that's exactly what we saw in the semifinal game against Skyridge.
Well, so yeah, I mean, look, the reality is Lone Peak wins this game thanks to their defense and special teams. I mean, that's right. But I don't want to undersell what the offense has done. I mean, Jordan Hamuli in this contest goes 12 of 19, 137 yards with a touchdown. Now, look, I mean, we just got finished talking about Jackson Dart, okay? Yeah, those aren't Jackson Dart numbers. Yeah. But he took care of things, and he kept this team moving enough to be able to keep Skyridge on the sideline. And really, when you're playing Skyridge, in my mind, that's the most important thing, right? Like, you want to take away Hillside. You want to get them out of being on offense because we've seen this team absolutely light it up all year long. But you look at what this Lone Peak defense did as well, Dusty. And, I mean, look, they didn't generate a ton of sacks, but they got a lot of pressure in that backfield. And they did a great job. Hillside only threw 15 of 30. It was 50%. And I think that his regular season, he was upper 60s, at least mid 60s. And so, that was certainly below average for him on this season. A lot of that's credit to this Lone Peak defense. They made things tough. And, they do that week in, week out. That pass rush gets to you. Actually, Hillside was their leading rusher. He had 20 carries, and a lot of those were flushed out of the pockets. And so, they were able to kind of upset the timing enough. And that's what you expect from Lone Peak to do with that pass rush, is really try to get offenses out of sync, try to rush them a little bit. But that being said, Dusty, Skyridge, I mean, they score a touchdown midway through the fourth, and you're like, I don't know if Lone Peak is going to have the offense to get back down and take the lead. And make no mistake, here comes the player of the game, and K.O. Hansen taking it back 94 yards in what was an incredible return. But just like that, it was one where it was like Lone Peak was going to be opportunistic. They got the opportunity. And Hansen was able to cash in and help lift Lone Peak back to another state championship game.
Well, remember, K.O. Hansen only had the kickoff return for a touchdown. He also had the strip and recovery on the fumble to the 1-yard line, leading to Luke Durfee's first of 2 touchdowns in this second half. And, when you look at what happened in this game, it's if you look at Skyridge and what we thought they could be on it, they wanted to get back and play against Corner Canyon. And Dane's now wearing his green shirt because he had Lone Peak in the state championship game in the 6A side. And
I finally got one, Dusty.
Yeah, no one on it. But you look at what he did there. I mean, that's a guy that saw opportunities and he took them. I mean, to me, that's a Riley Jensen mental performance moment of the week. It's Hansen in the biggest game of the season when his team really needs him. Not only does he get one play, he gets two plays. One, that strip and return to the one was everything that Lone Peak needed because their offense was stumbling a little bit. They couldn't quite find their footing. All of a sudden, Kale sets him up with the one. Durfee punches in for the touchdown. Skyridge goes down the field. James Palmer, doing what James Palmer did for 3 years for Skyridge, scores a touchdown, 35-yard touchdown pass from McKay Hillstead. And what do you do on the ensuing kickoff? The only one that doesn't reach the end zone, KO Hansen throwing the KO punch going the other way. And that to me is a Riley Jensen performance moment of the week, simply because when your team needs you, and in life when people around you need you, you got to have people in your corner. It's going to help you get that done. And Kale Hansen had the intestinal fortitude, what Gorilla Monsoon said so many years ago in WWF wrestling before it changed its last letter. You had to have someone that had that. And that's exactly who Kale Hansen was on Thursday night for Lone Peak. And if you need help with that, go to RileyJensenConsulting.com, set up your appointment, and get the help that you need. If it's just getting better in the boardroom, as Dane says, or on the field, he's there to help you out.
Yeah, he is. And Dusty, look, he's trusted by, collegiate and professional athletes and businesses, Utah State University, Weber State, RSL. They all go to Riley Jensen. Couldn't recommend him any more. RileyJensenConsulting.com to schedule your appointment with Riley Jensen. One of the other things I'll add about this game, Dusty, I mean, that's Skyridge defense. Look, I know that they lost this ball game, but how this in the second half, Lone Peak's longest scoring drive was 10 yards. And you talk about, the short fields that Lone Peak had, right? Durfee has 2 rushing touchdowns in the second half. One's from 6 yards out. That capped off a 10-yard drive. One's from 2 yards out. That capped off a 2-yard drive. And KO has the kickoff return for the touchdown. That's what the Skyridge defense gave up in the second half. And they led this game 17-7 at the break. So it's one of those where, Lone Peak gets short fields. Offense is able to find ways to close it out. Special teams were huge. Obviously, KO, with the night that he had, was critical for Lone Peak. This was a great ball game. And it continues to be an exciting rivalry and one that we'll look forward to next year. I'll tell you what, McKay Hillstead, he continues to show the future's bright for this young man. And Skyridge, the offense in his hands, they're going to be a team to deal with in the coming years.
No, 100%. It's going to be interesting. Coach Lemon does a great job on the field, and we'll see what happens with Skyridge going forward. Let's talk about 4A, because more interestingly enough, we thought we'd have 2 barn burners in 4A. And how about the home squads? One thing we're going to pump while we're both wearing green, we had the state championship game lined up. We knew that was going to look like Skyview and Pineview. And but let's start first with the Skyview. In the first matchup with Ridgeline was a overtime game. The offense had a hard time. And this one, who needs to throw the football? Carlson knows who needs to throw the football. We're going to run the ball, and that's what the Bobcats did. Before we get to that, however, I want to get to Caden Cox. My absolute best, all of our best wishes and thoughts go to this young man, the leader of the Ridgeline Riverhawks, and a gruesome injury right at the end of the half in this one. And he did not play the rest of the game, and I hope his recovery is speedy. I hope it gets him back to where he wants to be. It was gruesome ankle injury, at least what we saw on video, and just feel terrible for any athlete that loses their season, especially someone that was playing as well as Cox was, and you have your team and all things he wanted to do. I'm sure it's what he was thinking about. It's how they're going to win without me, and we certainly hope the absolute best for him. But this game was all about Skyview from there on after.
Yeah, I mean, Dusty, just echo your comments around Caden Cox. Saw that injury and certainly didn't look good. And, you hate to see that regardless of the level, much less for a high school athlete. And so Caden, certainly wish you the best in a speedy recovery and a healthy recovery in the coming days and weeks. This was a tight matchup in the regular season, Dusty. We talked about that. 17-14, I think it was. And, this game, Isaac Larson gets an early rushing touchdown for Skyview, and Caden Cox goes out. And, I mean, in my mind, it's like, gosh, I don't know if Ridgeline's going to be able to have the horses to find a way to keep pace with Skyview. And they threw the ball a little bit more in the second half. I think they only threw it 2 or 3 times in the first. But, this Skyview team, Dusty, as Ridgeline, you lose your leader, your offensive guy. You're going up against the defending state champs, guys that have been there. They've done it before. And, Skyview able to cruise here 28-0. And I think that injury, I don't know if it changes the outcome. I think it certainly changes the competitiveness of this matchup. But it was Skyview in this one, 28-0, and they advance to another state championship game.
Yeah, it's super, super impressive. And the reigning state champions, to me, I always love it when a reigning state champion returns some talent. And you got Carlson and others there. And as you know, Isaac Larson, someone I got to see last year in a couple of games. I was excited to see his move over to Skyview and what that's meant. And it's been a great deal to the Skyview Bobcats, as every week he's making an impact. So congratulations to Skyview getting back to defend their title. Let's go to, that was the Cache Valley Championship. Now let's go to the All St. George Championship. Pineview and Snow Canyon. This game started exactly the way that Snow Canyon wanted. Braxton Hickman, 27-yard catch from Landon Fry. And then things got interesting, shall we say. Dominic McKenzie, 29-yard touchdown catch. Enoch Takao had an 11-yard touchdown run later on as well. McKenzie had 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 29-yarder, a 43-yarder, and then ran one in 3 yards out as this game was gone as Pineview and Coach Hasna and the Panthers go back to a championship game, getting the win 48-7 and claiming their crown. They are the Kings of St. George. It has been that way for the better part of 20 years. Snow Canyon's had their run and their time since opening in 1995. To be the Kings, but the last 20 years, it belongs to Pineview. Even though Desert Hills has championships, Pineview's been there more.
And Dusty, I want to go back in this ball game a little bit because this very easily, my opinion, right, could have gone the other way. Snow Canyon goes up in this contest 7-0. They are inside the 10. It looks like they're going to have a chance to go up 14-0 in this contest. You get a critical sack that brings them out. They have to settle for a field goal. And look at this ball die and just go off. I don't know if it had the upright or the crossbar, but from that point on, it just shifted. And it was all Pineview. Look, if this game's 14-0, Pineview can score at the best of them, right? So I'm not saying that that's over. But 14-0 is a lot different than coming off the field 7-0 and having the special teams just miss a field goal, right? And so, to me, I'm like, gosh, if Snow Canyon scores there, is this looking more like the regular season matchup, 36-35? But instead, it just turned into an absolute avalanche. And, you're right. Look, whether it's Takao, it's McKenzie, Bunnell, they just lit up the offensive scoreboard in this contest. And, the defense was big as well. Forced a couple turnovers in this contest. Snow Canyon fell down 21-7. It was almost 28-7 right before the half. They ruled the runner down as the half expired for Pineview, but had a couple turnovers. And, this thing just got landslided in favor of the Panthers. And, Dusty, for how good Pineview has been, right? You talked about it in the bracket when we picked 4A. You said, hey, now they get a state championship game at home. Can this be the year for Pineview where things are a little bit different? I'll tell you, the way this team is playing, the way they just took care of business against Snow Canyon, if you're Skyview, you better be ready. This is going to be a really tough Pineview team. I think the last time I said that in a state championship game, no, actually that was you that said that against Riley Nelson. Sorry, I had to.
Thank you.
That won't win me any Pineview favors, but this Pineview team can be really scary. This is going to be a really fun championship game. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. And I'm just making sure on some notes here because I've had some people fix some of my quotes lately, and I appreciate it. I've wanted to add a Stat Boys part of this whole show, like to have a party interruption, and just can't get Vince Francis to agree to it. Preston, we will not let on air. But we've got to get that fixed. So Pineview's get to win a state championship. Juab won their first ever state championship in football. Pineview looking for their first ever state championship in football. And they've had some games been blowouts and championship games. They've had some that have been close. And I expect this one to be close. 2 o'clock on Saturday. We will be there at Dixie State. This will be a lot of fun to be a part of. We're excited to be there. Have all the Chase Championship games. Dane, I'll be at 5A, 6A, and 4A. However that goes, we know 4A will go last. But we'll be there. Wherever that is, we're going to be there back-to-back days. Let's get to our Black Clover looking good performers of the week. Dane, you took a pie to the face. I'll take a imaginary one, okay?
Okay.
Because I always give you crap for always picking more than one guy when we do single person awards.
Yeah.
I did this to open the year, number one. I gave Mountain Ridge an award because it was their first win in school history. I'm going to go with the first ever state championship in school history. Juab going to get my Black Clover looking good performers of the week, because not only that, you had to go up against a team you lost to last year, still looking to get things back. They were down 14-10 midway through the third quarter, 83-yard touchdown, and they're able to hang on because there's multiple possessions there. It looked like maybe Morgan get going. They turned them away on downs. They picked up critical fourth downs. They kept their heads in big moments. Trey Lund's been one of my favorite guys to watch this year, a big man with football. And but congratulations, Juab, going to be my looking good performers of the week.
Hey, I wanted to give you an opportunity, Dusty. I didn't want to steal your thunder. I wanted you to be able to talk about your X Factor, but I'll take care of it for you. I'm going to go with Joe Smith. Dusty, he accounted for 273 all-purpose yards in this contest. 273, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. He was dynamic. His speed was on display all night long. Out of the backfield, had a 77-yard touchdown, receiving touchdown as well. Joe Smith was fantastic for that Orem offense to help really separate them from Maple Mountain in the early going and push Orem to their 4th consecutive state championship game. Congratulations to Joe Smith for being my Black Clover looking good performer of the week.
Absolutely. Let's get to the last one. Kesis Kava, the defensive performance of the week. And look, there's some shutouts that took place. We had 3 of them in the games that we saw, but only one of them came with a ring. And that has to go to Beaver. Beaver pitches a shutout in the state championship game against Duchesne. And Dane, this, as you mentioned, some of the numbers at the top, I'll have you go through it again. This Beaver defense, Beavers build dams, and they built multiple dams, a plethora of dams, and in a way that eagles couldn't even fly over them.
True. For me, I look, we like to spread the wealth around a little bit, right? But I got to take my comeuppance, man. I'm also going to go with the Beaver defense. Dusty, they've only given up more double digits 3 times this year. In a season when they played 13 games, 10 times they held opponents either scoreless or single figures. They held a state championship opponent to 57 yards. That's half a football field. My goodness. And this was a Duchesne team that was scoring, I think, 33 points a game. Beaver, I'll take it. I'll wear it. I did earlier. Your defense is my Kesis Kava defensive performer of the week.
And if you want to get a discount, if you're a Kava drinker, your family, first of all, if you like it, I think most of you are probably drinking Kesis Kava. Get a discount. Use the code football. Get a discount on your order. But if you're a mom or someone just doesn't like to, you don't have time to mix Kava, or maybe you're away from family and friends, but you still need that natural way to end the day, to calm down and get to sleep, then Kesis Kava's got you, because you got 100% Kava in a capsule. Take a pill, 100% organic. It's all Kava, no additives in there. And get that rest that you need, get that night, the ability to take that chill off the end of the night. And Kesis Kava's got you back. Go to KesisKava.com, put in the code football, and you'll get a discount on your order. Go check out our schedule videos this week. Dan and we've got some traveling to do. We're excited to do it. Championship games are here. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay together. And not only that, the eyes up, do the work. There's some stuff that's gone on in this state. Didn't want to bring it up in the middle of the video. You see something going on in your school around students, and maybe some of you aren't going to be around students for a while. Take care of those that need to be taken care of. I don't want to go into details. I think most people know what I'm talking about. Take care of those kids around you. We're there to protect them, not to make their lives worse. And hope we're able to do that as well. For Vince Francis and Dane Stewart, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us and watching Deseret News Rewind on Deseret.com.